Go.
Hello. Welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host again, Scrivo. We're doing something a bit special because it is Stream Streak 150. Take 2. So obviously thank you to all the Patreons, all you guys in the chat as well that sub, like, follow, subscribe, tweet us, demand OnlyFans, you name it. You are amazing. And thank you to everyone so far that's donated in the Sound Gear Pledgeathon. It's not begging, it's a pledgeathon. It's awesome. And to mix things up a bit today, the tables have turned. Rob is the one being interviewed. So yesterday evening on Twitter, I put out the call, and we've got some interesting questions. Some that are a bit dumb, some that are amazing. Probably the dumb ones are mainly the people that just want Rob to feel awkward. So I'm in.
Yeah, they're also probably the people we know best.
Yes, so it's all your friends.
You didn't introduce your guest and say he was amazing. You always have to do that.
Okay, so here is the guest. This is Rob. I hear he once won the South Coast GT with a book that now is pretty bad. So this is Rob.
It was called Grand Alliance. It was Mixed Destruction. Grand Alliance. I'd like everyone to know that.
I don't know. No one cares, Rob.
Thanks. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Okay, cool. First question.
Oh, straight in.
Go to my list. I'm going straight in. In fact, no. How are you, Rob? How have you been in the hobby this week? What have you been doing?
Great question.
Is it interesting?
Great question. Thanks for asking.
Great question. These are my thoughts.
Great question. Thanks for asking. A great day today. So the big goldfish, who is a legend, who can't be on Twitter for several reasons, mainly because he gets fighty, which I love. I met him this morning, and he's building the tables for the Super Series, which is exciting. And also, he's a beautiful Brummie with an amazing accent. So he just like, yeah. So he's just like, oh, Rob, we're gonna be. Oh, I'm not gonna do it. It's just gonna be horrible. But anyway,
Rob, you're not allowed accents for this entire show, please.
Okay, but lovely man, lovely, wonderful man who I've been lucky to get to know over these past few years. And we're going to end up with some really sweet ass tables for the Super Series, which is awesome. And he's given up some time. He's brought all the wood, like just a legend. And just really enjoyed hanging out with him. So after the show, I'll be back there on site. I've been given a tiny tape measure, and also a builder's pencil. Which, for some reason, builders have pencils that you don't, like, stick in a pencil sharpener. They have ones that you sharpen with a knife. I don't really know why. And they're flat. Why are they flat?
You know why? It won't roll on a flat surface.
Right, okay. So what's that mean? Oh, what? So
if you put a pencil down and you're on a non-even surface, it'll just roll away. That won't.
Fucking those builder fellas. They know what they're doing.
They
know what they're doing. Yeah, they're smart. So yeah, I'm a tradie now. I've got a pencil and a tape measure. I've been marking out wood. But if anyone wants to know, it's a 122 some number. Don't know if it's inches or centimeters or whatever's, but I'm doing that. And that's been my day and week so far. And I painted some play bearers. 90 play bearers is what I've been doing.
Aren't you a bundle of joy?
Yeah, that's the best. Yeah. Anyway.
At least it's not 90 Nurgling bases.
Not yet.
Ugh.
Yeah. Please. Carry on, John. Sorry.
Cool. Right. So the most important question, which is the first question we received, is: what would you rather fight, a lion-sized duck or a duck-sized lion?
Oh, okay. Great question.
That is from James Thompson, the Dreadwood.
Well, probably, I know this is going to sound really weird, a duck-sized lion, because that would be super easy to like just like punt more specifically. But I don't know if anyone knows much about it, and obviously terms and services, some things you can't say. But I'm not sure if anyone's aware of quite the level of horrificness that ducks are in the sexual, like predatory world. If you guys want to, just Google it. Just Google duck sex acts. And you will find out that
they're non-consensual fornicators, the male ducks, correct?
Correct. Yeah, with corkscrew penises that explode and have barbs. Yeah, they're horrible. They are horrible. Yeah.
Right. So that was an answer.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Round to number 2. We're going to do these as a bit of a quick fire to start with, just to get through some of them. So,
Okay.
what is it about plaid pattern that makes you feel so attractive? Again,
Okay.
from James Thompson.
Okay. All right. So it's not that I feel attractive. It's more like the kind of aura and energy I want to put off. I want people to realize that at any point I could be doing meth in a caravan, and I want people to like really understand that that's the height that I am aiming to. So when someone's like, I wonder the aspirations that this man has, and really it's to just be an attendant at a gas station pumping gas. It's pretty much as far as I ever thought my life would take me, and so I give that energy off in my clothing. I want people to know that maybe I'll chop down trees for a living, which is a good, honest living, and I do that all day. Maybe just work in a quarry, probably. Stuff like that. Trap beavers. Something wholesome. Not this. Not whatever I'm doing now, is what I'm trying to say.
What even is this?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's certainly an answer. Okay, so this is the classic quintessential question, which James did put down as well, which I thought was too good to share. I know he's had two already, but when did you start wargaming? And what was kind of the deciding factors? Because obviously that's a question you always ask all your guests.
Okay. All right. Well,
so that whole kind of intro to the hobby.
Yeah. Okay. So I started wargaming when I was a child. Not true. Bit of a different journey for me. Big shout out to Owen Jackson in the chat for subscribing. Thanks very much. Because he's playing real Warhammer. Get going. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. So what was my journey to the hobby? So I was playing World of Warcraft with my friend Alex. And then Alex was like, we should play some Warhammer. And I was like, cool, don't really know what that is. It's the miniatures. He brought it over. We played on the table in my kitchen. It was sweet. I used some goblins. No. Did I use some goblins? I think he used some goblins and I used some else. And I shot off some of his dudes. It was 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle. And then that was it. I was like, this is pretty cool. I was like, we should get some armies. Then we got some armies, and I kept getting my ass kicked. But then I started painting up some ogres, and that was really fun. And then I played some more games, and then I played a tournament really early on. So I started playing really regularly at Warhammer World, like really regularly on a Wednesday, because I used to, no, I don't anymore, but I DJ'd every Tuesday night. So I'd be like out till 4 a.m. It would be packed with people, which I actually weirdly find quite claustrophobic. Thanks to Dan Mills for subscribing. I always found that quite overwhelming some days. So what I would need to do is kind of do that introvert thing, which I am actually. Most people would probably think not. Is I need to go away and decompress. So what I would do is I would go and play Warhammer on a Wednesday. So which is like really like focused, right? The rest of the world kind of falls away from your head. So at that point, yes. I was running like 3 club nights, and I had a whole bunch of staff working for me, and they just know not to come to me, or they get a taxi over to Warhammer World and be like, "We need this stuff from you," and I would just give it them and then send them back on their way. That was my Wednesday, which was fun. And then I got into like competitive gaming, and it kind of snowballed from there. I went to like two Warhammer World events. For 8th edition, and I went to Blood and Glory for 8th edition as well, and South Coast GT for 8th edition. So, and that was all within like the first year of playing, so I kind of jumped straight in. Started watching loads of battle reports online was my way of getting into it. I found those super useful, but they used to be condensed down into like 10 minutes. So I used to big shout out to a guy called Dan Malorian. Not Dan Malorian, Mr. Malorian. I used to watch his stuff all the time. Lord Tremendous, whose best friend, Death Holy Death, is the famous Dark Elf burner from Fantasy 2.
That guy.
Yeah. But I was like, I consumed their content, so I completely got it because they were always used to set their dice on fire when they betrayed them. It was kind of their thing.
Oh, it was on brand, so
it was on brand.
Context,
so I was just,
it made more of a difference.
Yeah, I was like, haha, hilarious continuation of the joke, and everyone else there was like, what a dick, and I was like, I don't know, give it context and everything. So that was it. That's how I started the hobby. And now we're here.
Yeah, you seem to escalate. It kind of, you go quite intense with it and escalate. And that seems to be your style, Rob. I've noticed that.
That is my style. I escalate all situations wherever I am, no matter the situation. So careful. I like being the guest. It's so easy. I'm just going to sit here and say words. Please continue the questions.
Indeed, right. So this one is from Slanice.
Okay.
Is there anything you know now that you'd wish you'd known on the day you started The Honest Wargamer?
Yes.
is the first part of it.
Sound. I wish I understood sound well enough, which has been such a journey for me. Apart from that, no. The Honest Wargamer was started with the intentions that I still hold, and it's grown and it's changed in different ways. And I'm very comfortable with those elements. And it would have been nice to have got better internet at different points or understand that kind of concept. But for me, really, and I mean, COVID's whatever. Like, I still like I still like the format that it's all the people in the room. I think that's a better show. I think that when me and the lads are like laughing, or when you and me or whoever's on, I think in an interview format, one-on-one, this stuff, everything that's fine. But I do miss the live energy that you get from being with people.
You bounce off each other a lot more in person, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry again, since for a DJ not knowing sound, such a very basic thing. Yeah, the sound issue is actually, like, I come from like a shooting, like, so video editing and shooting like in real life sort of situation, but the sound for podcasts and for live shows is actually really, really complicated. It's not complicated to kind of get it, like you can kind of get it, but to get it like super well. And also, when you've got someone like Nathan Prescott who won't be near a microphone whenever he can be, he's like this. Yeah, Rob, like, what? Yeah, like, I keep saying my points. You know, the microphone's here. Or Tom Layton, who'll just run around the microphone. You really do start to... but yeah, that's the thing I wish. That I'd
it's having
understood
all those challenges, right?
and also as a side note, for anyone who wants to start this, you could always drop me, like, wants to start podcasting or doing something live, and you want to drop me any questions about sound that I know so far, then please do get in touch. But sound engineers, like Abawaki in the chat is saying, are like incredible human beings who really understand something that, and I want everyone to be really crystal clear on this, that I might think is super boring. Yeah. Oh no, we've lost John again. Oh, he's back. He's back.
I'm still here.
Okay, but
no.
but
You said it and then I went.
that's okay. You're back. But however,
Hello.
we're there, John. We
Hello.
can hear you. I can hear you, John.
Hello, Rob.
Is this a
Brilliant.
joke? John,
This has been fun.
John, are you
It
making a
says we're
joke?
still live together, but
We are live, John. John, we can hear you. We can hear you, John.
They can hear me. Brilliant.
Can you hear me?
You can hear me.
We can
I
all
just
hear
can't
you,
hear
John.
Rob.
Why can't you hear me?
That's brilliant.
This is the worst podcast ever. Never stopped hearing. I can hear you also, John. I can hear you, John. Oh my god. This
Right,
is a
so
great
I can only-
episode. It's over for me. I'm having the best day. This is really good. Listen, you guys have had several shows that have been of medium quality. Hello, John. Welcome back.
Apparently, we're not allowed good internet ever.
I think it's Skype. I think Skype's being weird.
I think it's Skype because it's the only thing that seems to be playing up for me is Skype. So,
podcast guys,
It's
love
fine.
you, love your loads. Right, the next question, John. Also, a big
Right.
shout out to sound engineers. Sorry.
Yes,
To
sound
finish my
engineers.
point, if you want to get in touch with me, ask me any questions, please do so. But lastly, you can learn absolutely everything from Google. Just jump onto Google, sorry, YouTube specifically. MJ Pegasus, thank you so much for donating some money to the show. Anyway,
hero.
after you. Yeah, hero.
Right. So part two of Selenice's question is: any thinking from your martial arts does it affect your play style?
Great question. Well, so I studied
You're going to say that every time?
Every time. I studied Jeet Kune Do, which, if you guys don't know, is Bruce Lee's martial art. Bruce Lee was very much about efficiency. There's this thing called efficiency in motion, but efficiency equaling effectiveness is a kind of key tenet of that martial art. There's a great book called The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, which you can read, which is the philosophy behind it. But that probably is the thing that most affects my playstyle, because I have been trained myself and am an advocate for efficiency creating quality. And so when I look at armies or army lists, efficiency equates quality. However, there is a real big issue that I have in that I'm also mental. So when I look at something like Doom Wheels, I'm like, yes, 100%. And someone's like, they're not efficient. And I'm like, no, they're not efficient when you roll badly. But when you roll well, and that's my other problem, I'm an overconfident dickhead. So there we go. Next question.
Are you? I've never realised that. Cool.
Yeah. Please continue.
Stunning.
And brave.
So, sorry again's question starts with about how you got into the hobby. We've already touched on that.
Did that.
What skills do you think make you suitable for the job? And he means the Super Series.
Oh,
so what?
0.
So
skills.
that was there
0.
We go.
0. One of the really interesting things about the Super Series, or being a T-Sports commentator in brackets in buddy ears, is that I know that I'm only really at the beginning of that journey. Whether or not I'm actually even the best person to be the commentator for the journey is 100% valid. And I'm not 100% certain I am that person. But what I know, very much like I had a conversation with someone yesterday, Tom, I do know that like it'll never happen unless someone just drives it. That's all I'm trying to be, is the person who drives it, creates the space. So like thanks to the Big Goldfish right now, Bill on the tables, Nathan, like all the guys, anyone who's donated money to the sound, we're all trying to build this dream. And I'm just the person really pushing it. So there's guys doing the terrain. They're doing that part. They're way more skillful at me than I can ever be. I couldn't do what Fish is doing or Nathan's doing. I couldn't do what like all the other, like Wallace is doing on the overlay stuff. I couldn't do any of that myself. Like I can know about Warhammer a bit. And even the pack, I wrote the pack, which should be out later today. And like I've shown like 8 people and they're like, can you read and write? Like, what is this turd that you've sent us in like text form? And I'm like, yes, okay. So like, what skills do I have? Almost none. However, one of the things I can't...
Boundless enthusiasm, right? That's what's driving it.
or it like hopeless stupidity, who knows? But yes, that's my that's the only thing.
You've made no secret of that before, though, that you'd rather be the guy behind leading everything than the commentator, though, right?
Number one, I love commentating. What I want to really express is if you go and watch any esports or any sport, there's a guy and his only job is Monday through to Friday, let's say, does his research, his talking points. He practices in the mirror. He's like yellow banana, red banana. Like he like practices his enunciation, his cadence. They're people who, for a living, practice communicating with people, and they like front load their brain with information. Like that is a whole job, which I know eventually we're going to get someone who's going to help be that part, and we're going to start to train these people at the T-Sports arena, which is the thing I'm excited for, and give these people opportunities and just say, give it a try. And if you look at like any of the YouTube videos, again, for people like, oh, so you want to be an esports commentator, watch those, understand how intense that process is. And so it's not the case that I don't want to do it, because I would like to, absolutely, because it's really, really fun, super fun. I just know that it can be done loads better eventually, but it can't be done better until we put the process in place to make it better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And now for the most important part of the question. Who in the Mortal Realms do you think you could take in a fight?
Oh,
and I'm assuming that's not just like some random like human dude sat on a street corner. I think he's meaning someone kind of worth. Not that people aren't worth, but you know what I mean.
Number one, great question. Jesus.
We need a tally of every time you said that.
My love rat. I wouldn't fight my love rat. That's it. Who would I fight? If I could fight anyone, I'd probably fight. I don't think I'd win, because that's the important part. But I would probably try to fight Godrak, because the guy just loves a fight, and I'm into that. That'd be fun. It'd just be clean and neat. There'd be no backstabbing. It would just be like headbutting all day, which would be Godrak. That's what I'm going up to. That's straight in. Yeah, or
cool.
Or the Troggoth hag, because I would hope later on, like we'd wrestle, and then it's hot, it's late, things happen. It's very easy to turn violence into quiet lovemaking, is what I'm trying to say. Well, that's what my dad always told me. Right, moving on.
Right, yeah. I've now got a mental picture in my head that I can't get rid of, Rob. And I don't know whether to be aroused or feeling sick.
Well,
so
Any, your choice.
Or both. Cool. So, what would you rather fight, a grot-sized gargant or a gargant-sized grot? That's from Sorry Again as well.
Gargant-sized grot, because they're made of mushrooms, so when I finally kill it, I could just like make myself a risotto. FYI, in my entire life, I've never made a risotto. Don't even know how. I know it's got rice and mushrooms.
Would you like me to show you?
Yes. What, right now?
It's very easy.
Cooking episode.
Well, it's not right now, because you need to be here.
Okay.
So, when I'm next up, we'll do a show.
Yeah, you make me one risotto. Thank you. Yeah, done.
There you
go. I'm in. Next one.
Right. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? And that's from Chris Francis.
So the Monty Python, isn't it? That's the Holy Grail. Which I really liked the Monty Python, but if anyone's more interested, I was more of like an Open All Hours sort of guy with Granville. If you've ever watched Open All Hours, it's an old show for everyone, but always made me laugh. But yeah, that's it. That's one of my preferred sitcom, or Alvida's Aim Pet. If you've ever seen that, I grew up watching that, which is maybe why I loved tradies so much. Good question. Next one.
Cool. So this one's from Andrew, which is at Swarthy Swabs. Serious question. It feels impossible to keep up competitively with anything less than 100% commitment, in brackets, constant errata, FAQs, rules broken on delivery, written 3 times in 2 weeks. What one thing would you do to make the game accessible?
Free rules. This is my new thing now, by the way. All Warhammer rules should be free, and they should just be available online. Their app could be, or any of their apps could be, exactly what you need. Like, what you want is you want to reduce all barrier of entry to you buying the models and playing the game. That's it. You want to reduce all those barriers. And me purchasing a book that's now out of date a week later is a huge barrier to entry. So don't do that. Don't do that. Just have everything free online. I think the next stage, the next best thing that we can get in any of the game systems is a free online set of rules which are updated and available to all. That is, for me, the go-to. And with even like a day, like a weekly update, like tune in, weekly update, the state of 40k, the state of Age of Sigmar.
Like you've got with things like esports, right? Where it's the weekly Wednesday patch. We fixed this because it's slightly imbalanced, and it's done. You know where it's going to be.
There's
structure to it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, maybe that's even something we might do on the Honest Wargamer, where just like Monday or like a Friday or something, we're just going to do like a 10-minute, like, the state of the game, where are we at, sort of a situation. Like, did anything change? Yes, no. But sometimes it's such a volume of information, right? Like that would be fairly hard to go into. That's why people like Auspex Tactics do it quite well for 40k, but it's still like, it's a lot of info, and I think that some people don't want that level of information or that granularity.
Sometimes you just want the kind of here's the big change, like smites are this way, done. You know how to handle it then.
Yeah.
So how it impacts your game that you're going to play tomorrow.
Yeah. Big shout out to anyone out there who wants to do my show notes for my patch note weekly or whatever it is. I'd be all over you. You could be my show writer. you can have a credit, like whatever. You could call it the U show. I think that needs to be done. I just don't know how to go about it at the minute. Anyway, next up.
Right, now I've got to scroll up a long way because there was a lot of conversations. So, question from Sorry Again as well. Will we see Rob in a suit to look smart for the interview? Apparently, you didn't get that memo, so it's all good.
I was just on site, FYI. Just been on site, lads. I had to ask the gaffer if I could leave, and he said, yeah, but I've got to bring him back a bacon butty, I think. I'm not sure that's true.
Right. So this one's from Rocco, your boy. How did you get into being a DJ? And then there's some other questions to follow on from that. So I thought that one was the interesting one to go with, to lead.
Okay. All right. So I used to be a doorman, as some of you may or may not know. I worked at a bar called Bar 11, which is where I'm actually in now. I'm on the top floor. And I used to be a doorman there. And across the road, it used to be a nightclub called Market Bar. And there was a lot of stabbings, like a lot of stabbings across the road quite often. And it was also a great question, FYI. A lot of stabbings. And then I said to the bar manager at the time, who came out one time after another stabbing, he's like, what are we going to do? And I was like, you should do Rock Night here, because there are very few stab-ins at rock nights. And he was just like, do you think? Because it was like a house venue at that point. It was like a bit housey, a bit wanky sort of a situation. And then, thanks for subscribing, Nick J. Fowler. Anyway, and then he was like, cool, I don't know how to do that. I was like, cool, I could do that. And then I just put it on. So then I just put some music at the back and then kind of advertised it a bit. And then it went quite well. And then it was quiet for ages. We just kind of put an iPod playlist on. But then I hired a DJ. But I didn't really hire a DJ because there's no rock DJs. If there is a rock DJ, he's almost certainly on a register. Just like you to know that. And if you are offended by that, every single famous rock DJ in England is someone who I know. Guaranteed. Like, end of conversation. So, and all of you, I can like name you by name. All right. Anyway, the point is, you can't really hire them. You just kind of decide you're going to be one. So I hired someone. I gave him the playlist of stuff to play, and then eventually, I just started doing the DJing as well as the promoting, and it just became super popular. And it's like 13 years later, and it's not on anymore because of COVID. So there you go. Do I know Larry London? No, but I bet he's on a register, allegedly. I was going to do that in things. I can't.
Oh dear, bunny ears.
Bunny ears. Anyway, yeah. So that's how I started DJing, and then it's great fun. Just playing music to people, really fun. I took over Rock City, like programmed all their DJs for a while, that sort of jazz. Really fun time.
Cool. So part 2 of Rocco's question was, what made you take T-Sports from an April Fool's joke to reality?
I don't think it ever was an April Fool's joke. I just was selling it quietly as an April Fool's joke. Because you can't, like, big dick it out, right? You can't just flop it out and be like, here it is. Or that's kind of what we did with the Super Series. You have to kind of, like, build into it. So you have to, like, slowly allow people to kind of get on board with the idea. And just be like, oh, yeah. Like, it's a fun thing to say. Oh, yeah. And then slowly push that. Because if I do have a skill set, which does come from nightclub promoting, it's the propagation of ideas and understanding how to put that into the world, I think. And what you're looking for is a cultural change in wargaming, not just a structural change. And those two things are different, and people don't really understand. It's the same way that racism is illegal, but there are still racists. Like, that's a structural change in that you make it illegal, but that there are still racists is a cultural issue that you need to approach from how you represent people on TV or in audiobooks or whatever the case might be to a bunch of other stuff. So structural versus cultural changes are really important. So changing the nature of competitive gaming is easier to do culturally. You have to push people culturally, right? Does that make sense? It's like the way Age of Sigmar generally has like better painted armies than 40k events. Generally, because there's a big culture to paint better in Age of Sigmar, I think. There are still standout armies in 40k.
It comes across that way, definitely.
Yeah,
From my experience of seeing both sides of it, it tends to be a lot of the time that people tend to invest in an army and paint it as a thing, or get someone to paint it, or whatever. There's that basic standard that people want to achieve. They take a little bit of pride in bringing, even if it's just, here's my 3-color army, but at least it looks nice-ish type of thing. But in 40k, it sometimes feels like people have the painted things kind of the side thing. It's like, I have to do it. So here's 3 blobs of paint splattered on them. Done. There's less pride there completely.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And so the jokey part was building the jokey part in to build up to Super. So I always planned. Well, I started planning the Super Series 2 years ago. So however long that is. Like, it's 2 years is the answer.
Yes.
To the question.
Right. And now for a great question, in my opinion. What really went down when you left GW?
I just had some dickhead managers. They were shit. And they, like, I would consider it to be like workplace bullying, effectively, because they're narcissistic monsters who don't really know how to manage people well. And I was already like, I was 31 when I joined Games Workshop, 33 when I left. Like, I was an adult man, and no one needs to like be talked to like shit every day. It's not who human beings are. I'd rather work like and not have very much money and work doing this. This is incredible, FYI. This is incredible. I love doing this. This is amazing. But you know, like if I had to do any job, I'd be fine with it. Like as long as no one talks to you like shit. I think there's a basic human standard, right? Just talk to people like they're human beings. So that's the long and short of it. That's easy, right?
Cool.
Yeah. Plus, it's cooler being out here. Like, it is cooler. Like, I've made so many awesome friends and so many cool things that I've done because I'm doing it, like, on my own. Like, it's way better. Way better. So, like, that's also something I would have told myself.
It's the friends you've made along the way, right?
It is awesome. It is so awesome. Right. Talk to you like shit isn't the same as shit talking, right? No, it's not the same. Not the same. Anyway, that's...
Indeed.
I hope that tells... no one tells me "fuck you, buddy" in a non-ironic way anymore.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Anyway,
right. Here's one from Sean. What is your favourite album musically? He put musically in brackets. That's a hard one, right?
Not at all. Not at all. It's a band called Meleen and the Sons of Disaster. The lead singer is the lead singer is the lead singer. Well, the original singer from Under Oath. And they're kind of one of my favorite types of music is like metalcore, I guess, kind of. It's a wanky description, but they're kind of bluegrass metalcore, which is fun. So if you take something like the Dead South, and then you mix it, if you guys have heard of the Dead South, and then you mix it with something like Partway Drive, not quite, it's a bit too far, but you kind of get something where you're at. Beartooth mixed with the Dead South for you young'uns, and you end up with Meleen and the Sons of Disaster. If I could suggest album 3, which is my favourite, don't listen to album 4. Let's pretend they didn't make an album 4. So album 3, Meleen and the Sons of Disaster, is one of my favourite. Is my favourite album.
Oh, God.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, I forgot about that band even existing.
Wow. Okay, it's a great band.
I was drunk the last time I saw them. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Very drunk.
Great band. Great band, great lists.
Right, part 2 of his question. Would you be willing to listen to only Limp Bizkit for the rest of your life if you were paid £10 million?
Yes. If I was paid £10 million, I'd listen. Yes. No problem. Easy.
It becomes white noise like after the first track, to be fair. So
how dare you? How dare you? Limp Bizkit's an institution. Like, it's an institution. Also, because I'm a DJ, my brain is broken. Especially because I'm a rock DJ. Because there isn't a single night as a DJ playing rock music that someone didn't say to you, "Could you play Limp Bizkit?" Like it was the first time they'd ever heard of it. They were like, "Oh my god, have you heard of this band called Limp Bizkit?" And you're like, "Yes, I've heard of them." It's like they're quite new, and you're like, "No, they're not quite new." Anyway, so that is that's that. So
have I lost you, Rob?
It's okay, John, you're back.
Oh, there we go. No. Oh, brilliant.
Don't keep talking it through, John, because it's terrible podcast.
Sorry.
Oh.
So if you could delete one genre of music completely, what would it be, and why is it urban country?
What is it? What's the question?
So if you could delete one genre of music completely, what would it be, and why is it urban country?
No, I would delete house music. Terrible. Does nothing. Is elevator music. I have a theory with music, by the way, so I'm super into rock and roll and Motown, like super into it. Also Northern Soul, if anyone's ever listened to some Northern Soul. But that's all great music, background music, if you have it on like 4 or 5. It's cool in restaurants and kind of just kind of background music that isn't making you dance. But that's all music that becomes incredible if you just turn it up to 11. If you just have it super loud, it's dancing music. Like that Motown is like quite chill and like relaxing when you have it quiet. But when you bang it up enough that all the bass and the mid is hitting you, that's when it becomes dancing music. House music, on the other hand, should be fired into the sun because it's nothing. It's just a beat that goes nowhere. That's what it is. It's when they say a story is like a beginning, middle, and end. House music is just a middle forever.
It's not even that.
Yeah.
It's just the intro of a song, and then it never goes anywhere.
Yeah, that's
it's just
it.
Like the requirement is you're supposed to take these illicit drugs, Rob, for it to make any form of sense. I think, and even then, you don't remember any of it. So what's the point?
No, and to follow up on this, so I've DJ'd and run like so many different types of nights. Like I had a really successful rock and roll and Motown club night, a really successful disco night. So Yes Meatballs is talking about mainstream gay culture going hand in hand with music, but like I'm still to this day blown away. Like It's Raining Men, yeah, right? You might think you're like, oh, it's a bit of like a song, you know, that I don't really like because it's a bit like whatever. It's one of the most banging tunes of all time. Musically, that thing, just bang that on to 11. Yeah, that song is absolute fire. And this is from a man who's just talked about metalcore. Like, disco is incredible music, start to finish. Just going to sell that out there. So there we go. Next question, John, because we've talked too much about music.
I'm going to take one from the chat because I keep seeing the old one pop up. So Dan Mills has put, what is your favourite Xenos army?
Orcs.
I knew you were going to say orcs.
Oh,
Next question.
It's orcs. It's orcs.
Why orcs, Rob?
They're kind of the Skaven, or really, of like they're random and fun and exciting. They also have like quite a good like background, like kind of story. Like they've got the on the nose stuff, but when it gets a little bit more technical, it's quite fun. And I like their like belligerent enthusiasm for just wanting to scrap. They at least have an honest reason for wanting to fight. Like, you know, if you look at Tyranids, they want to eat everyone to death. You know, like the Tau want to build this like utopian like horror show. The Imperium are Nazis. Like, so, you know, who do you really root for? But then there's just a bunch of dickheads who are like, I'll fight you. Like I can take that. That's all right. It's like, why are you here? I like fighting. What are the reason? That's it. That's my jam.
They want to fight, but they want everyone to be having a laugh whilst they're having that fight, which I think is key, right?
That's it. And at least, if nothing else, if everyone's got to be scrapping, might be enjoying themselves. So that is, yeah, they're my favourite Xenos race. There we go.
Cool. And then a follow-up to that from Scrunty Hugh in the chat. So what's your favourite 30k force?
Death Guard, probably, because I like the colour scheme, and I think they've got like super cool like armor. They've got cool weapons. They're just fun. Mortarian's pretty cool. It's fun. Either those or Salamanders. Salamanders are really, really fun because I like the Pyroclast kits and I liked the Fire Drake Terminators, who are just sweet AF models. So either of those two factions. And at least I picked a Loyalist. And yeah, Scrivo's gone again. I really do think it's Skype, by the way, not our internet, because our internet's fine. Hey, John.
I can do everything else fine.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me all right still?
I'm all right. We're all good, baby.
Yeah. It's fine. I just blame the internet. This is too much awesome for the internet. So
let's go for that.
Next question, if you can still hear me, is Adam Mumford has asked, what is your favourite band and why is it 5 Seconds of Summer?
Well, he's wrong. He's wrong. He also, by the way, looks like
he's an idiot, right?
Yeah. Yes. But I really like him, which is basically a description of any of my friends. So yeah.
Exactly. So what would be your favourite band then?
I already said. I told you.
No, you did, didn't you? Oh, I just tried to forget them because they're a band that are forgettable for me.
Yeah, 5 Seconds of Summer are pretty good though. Like, just FYI, they're no Kids in Glass Houses, but they'll do.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if I can find the next question.
Big shout out to my Panic in the Disco fans. But please continue.
Oh god, that's a bit on the nose right now.
Why?
What's his name? Brandon.
I don't know the names of any of them.
Bother. The lead singer's in a bit of trouble with young fans, I think was probably the polite way of putting it.
Wow, so he really will panic when he's at the next disco.
Yeah, he likes going to the school discos by the sounds of it.
Oh wow, okay, that's terrible.
Yes, which is not nice. But anyway, so a question from the incompetent painter: if you could change anything about GW, what would it be?
Just the internal management. They've got a really old management style, really poor like infrastructure. It's a great company full of like companies can never be great. More on that later in my manifesto. But no, no. But in reality, the people inside of the company are almost always good. The issue is that they have classic corporate problems in their middle management structure, which leads to poor internal kind of communication and ways of dealing with people. And it's a creative business at the end of the day, so they really could improve that process. I don't know any examples of corporations that actually do that well, though. Like a lot of the gaming industry, as we've seen in lots of publications at the moment, are going through all sorts of stuff. Like Riot won't let people unionize, and they're kicking off about that, and they've had loads of problems internally with their stuff. I think the same has happened with Wizards, and like loads of big gaming companies have had like some real like problems with people management. And truthfully, it's because, you know, just like everything else in life, we should all treat people more like people and less like corporate assets. And the problem is corporations treat people like assets, which is a shame. And that shouldn't be the case. So that's the thing I would change about it, because they make great stuff. They fuck up all the time. And that's because, again, I think that they don't listen to the people. I think they have passionate, dedicated people inside the company who can do great things. They just don't listen to that because of the structure, if that makes sense. Or the structure allows people who are shit at their job to stay at their job, was my experience. So that's why I change. Is that fine?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
So another question from Stuart Hastings. What is your favourite non-GW game and why?
I don't have one. Like outside, like I've got computer games, but I've never played enough of them. Like I played a little bit of A Song of Ice and Fire, which I'd really like to play. I thought at one point
it looks really good from what I've heard.
Yeah, everyone says it's great. I really want to get into Guild Ball, but obviously that's gone. Yeah, I super really want to get into Marvel Crisis Protocol. As you know, I'm not a big fan of the background story, let's call it, the lore for the Marvel universe. So I would like to them, and I'm also a bit pissed about A Song of Ice and Fire, because if it had been a thing, I would like if the story, like if the TV show hadn't ended awfully, but I don't also want to go back and watch the TV show, like, which I don't know if anyone else is feeling that, but I really want to, like, if it just like finished off like Lord of the Rings, you'd be like, yeah, I'm into that. That'd be cool. Oh, Lord of the Rings, that's Games Workshop.
Yeah,
Song of Ice and Fire, Marvel.
Got him.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think I'd have to go out and look, I guess. Sorry about Guild Ball. Yeah, like just try Bushido. Yeah, that'd be fun. And also, I'm a big Star Trek nerd. I wouldn't mind playing like the X-Wing equivalent of Star Trek, whatever that is like. Just so
Attack Wing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, just so I can throw shit around and just be like, "Pew, pew, pew, I'm Worf." But that's it. I think. Yeah. So my answer is I don't have one.
Yeah. I'm not too surprised by that one, because you are so focused on the GW stuff, because, like we said, to retain the information for the systems to a good enough standard, you have to commit so much time to it that you don't have space for
like I want to get
the other stuff.
Yeah, I want to get like a little gang, like a gaming group together, and I want to get really, really like weirdly into Necromunda, like super weird, like all the way weird, like get our models 3D rendered onto the models, the whole thing, get super gnarly on it, tattoos, the lot. But like I want to go all the way in. Like, it'd be like, how long have you guys been playing Necromunda? You'd be like, 18 years. Like super weird. But
I've been living it for 18 years.
But I just don't have the time. I don't, like, between organising the Super Series, which is organising loads and loads of people, all of the projects to bring the Super Series to the fore, the tech side of it, which is stuff I'm still learning. Just like I told you a moment ago, like, I'm going to need to be a better commentator, so I need to learn things. So I keep watching stuff and writing notes and practicing. And I know that sounds really rubbish and boring, but that's what I have to do. And so, like, everyone has a work-life balance, and it's cool that my work is my hobby, but I don't do it like my hobby. Like, I don't do battle reports, for example, like just play games and film them. Like, for example, like when I commentate on the games for a weekend, it's awesome, but everyone else is doing the fun bit. Like, and I love what I do, and I love the fun of commentating. But as John, you know, there's this level of stress and work that goes behind it. And that's not me like being a bleating heart and like, oh, feel sorry for me.
It's constant as well, because you are literally sat there for that block of, say, 8 hours, not able to just stop and sigh for a minute. You actually just got to keep focused on what's going on.
Yeah. So,
which is hard.
It's hard. There's a lot of things. But yeah, it is rewarding. I think once the Super Series set up and we've started to do a couple of them over the next like year, I think we'll be at this like much higher level, and it might give me an opportunity to take an evening off one time and play some Necromunda. But you know, I work 7 days a week, and have done for like 3 years. So anyway, let's continue, John. Yeah.
Right, a question from the chat from Chucklebutty.
Mm.
If you had to cosplay as a character from any franchise for a whole month, who would it be and why?
Very excited about maybe being Squirrel Girl from X-Men, or not X-Men, Marvel, whatever, it's all the same. DC. And then,
Marvel.
I mean, is it any different? So Squirrel Girl, that would be fun. Cosplay as anyone from any franchise. One of my favorite characters in all of 40k is Malkador the Sigillite, because he's just a fun weaver of schemes. That could be quite fun to play up as. Maybe because he's got an awesome cloak, this is what I'd like to go as. And I've always wanted to wear like jodhpurs or / leggings. What about a solitaire? Cool mask. Like, also probably could wear that to like a sex dungeon. You know, the coat, the mask, the whole thing. Not that I've ever been to one or would go to one.
We can ask Nathan.
Yeah, I'll ask Nath. But yeah, solitaire. I'm going for solitaire from the Harlequin range because actually they're my favorite. They're probably my favorite 40k faction. I say that a lot, but narratively at least, they're my favorite 40k faction.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Really disappointed it's not sharp. I don't want to be sharp.
Bastard.
Bastards. Any other questions, John?
So I have one more from Momus, who is Samus7 on Twitter, which is how long until the community takes back its game and starts writing comp packs again? I'm guessing that's probably for Age of Sigmar and 40k, because that's kind of applicable to both, really. Maybe more 40k.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Like that question. Should we self-comp a game? Is a question that I've had many times. The biggest problem that we have when we have that conversation is who's going to do the comp and also who's the talking head. If you listen to any content creator, whether it be 40k or Age of Sigmar, they've all got their opinions. And they're all equally as right and equally as wrong as each other, me included. So the problem is who you trust to do that job and why they want to do that job. Like, as an example, I don't want to do that job. I just want Games Workshop to do a better job. That's kind of like my get to. But like, for instance, they haven't put enough clarity on some information, and so people have to already do some sort of clarification. I'd like to see AOS and 40k clarification packs. They were like, hey, this is unclear, so this is a decision we reached. Just so TOs around the world don't have to keep making their own decisions or doing their own versions of it. I do think that there is and should be a standardized way of both playing 40k and Age of Sigmar because that allows you to play a non-standard way. Like, you don't need to give me rules to tell me I can always break the rules whenever I want to. That's the easiest way of playing Warhammer or wargaming in generally. If I want to just break the rules and do something different, I can always do that. However, the core pack should be designed to be fun for the people playing it, and like it is a fun game. Like can I say one thing about the whole process is that I think Warhammer specifically, obviously I know there are loads of other games, or wargaming generally, is still not perfect, but what we all know is that there is the potential to have not the perfect system, but the great system. Like it's like we're waiting, all of us I feel quite often are waiting around for that system to appear. Does that make sense? Like you play and you go, I really enjoyed this. It's a bit crappy about that situation. And then you go, one day it'll all be sorted out. And we're all kind of invested in what something will eventually be.
It's that optimism, right? Because we're all looking back to the times where you'd have a codex and it'd stay broken or with errors till the next edition. So we've already seen a step change, but it's still not quite there, right?
Yeah. I think it's. I don't know. It really does depend on the format, and I think the problem is when stuff seems a bit out of whack. It can give you like some super feel bads, especially if you're really invested in something. You know, like we've talked a lot about the 40k thing at the moment, but even Age of Sigmar, Beast of Chaos guys are like, I like my Beast of Chaos. Like, well, they suck. Like, it's like, well, I still like them. Like, I don't want to play them. But then they must get upset when people say that they suck. They must be upset when they're not loads of them at tournaments. Like, it's kind of like having, I imagine, a football team. or
and
a
they're
sports
always
team.
playing badly. Yeah.
Yeah. You have a sports team, and they're your sports team. But not only is it your sports team, you spent like 800 quid on your sports team, and then your sports team's bad. And then that gives you the feel bad. Then you see all the other sports teams being randomly given good stuff, and you're like, but what about my sports team? And that's where I think the feel bads come from. And it makes sense. I think that's one of the biggest problems Games Workshop has, actually, is they don't have like a people manager. And I don't mean a people manager like calm people down and shut people up, but more of like a person whose job it is to really understand what's going through the average customer's head and why. Like, I think that's the biggest, like, and they have that, like, they have focus groups and research groups for so many big companies. Like, they understand what motivates people and what makes people tick. And I don't mean in the, like, loot box, and I don't mean Games Workshop loot box. I don't mean that kind of, like, mercantile, like, efficient way. I mean in the what customers really understand and want, and, like, what will drive... Because the key element for dealing with customers, in my opinion, and I can be wrong on this, is... you find like what motivates them, not what they need, but what they want, which is the difference, right? Games Workshop makes a lot of need-based product at the minute. Like, you need the codex with the rules in so you can play the game because we've made this codex better than all the other codexes. And you're like, that's a need. But what they should be like, this thing is awesome, you should want it. And you're like, awesome.
Because
anyway.
you want it also that the new kit, it looks really cool, so you want that, but also the rules make it playable. I'm not saying brokenly playable, but like there's not that feel bad of buying a new kit and then going, oh, I put it on the table and it just gets shot off or just gets evaporated instantly. That gives you such feel bads, right?
Mm.
But then on the flip side, if you bring a new model and it's too good, you get feel bads from your opponent that you've basically just kicked their dick in because you bought something new that's powerful. So they need that kind of happy medium almost.
Agreed. Okay. Yeah. Good.
Right.
There we go. All the questions
I've got one
done.
last question for you.
Oh, shit.
If that's
okay.
right.
Let's go.
It is, if money was no obstacle, what Age of Sigmar and 40k army would you have and why? That you don't already own. This one's from me.
Great question. Tough question. Well, I already own the armies that I like pretty much.
Yeah. But is there a gap that it's kind of not necessarily the most efficient to buy? Because it's all expensive kits type of thing is what my kind of logic with it.
Not really. Like, I've got some Skaven. I maybe like to flesh out my Skaven army one day, but like that's not a big deal to me. Like, that's fine. I honestly don't think so. Because I'm trying to get off that bandwagon in my head where it's just more armies is good. I think I have a lot of like chaos for Age of Sigmar, which I really love, and my Seraphon, which I really love, and Chaos Dwarves, which all went away. Like, it'd be nice to have my Chaos Dwarves back at some point, but like, not really for Age of Sigmar because I've got everything that I like. To be honest, I don't really not too bothered about Lumineth, the Daughters of Cain, or Idoneth. Karajan would be cool. Karajan, just more dwarves because Karajan are fun. And those boats look like they're super fun to paint. So that's that.
They're nice kits.
Yeah. And for 40k, probably at this point in my journey through life, would be Thousand Suns. Just because, like, I've got the big Magnus now, and I've got the Plague Marine, so I just kind of, I like the idea that if they are going to get the other two kind of, like, big Demon Princes and kits coming at some point, then I'd like to maybe have all four eventually and do the kind of ruinous powers, play like a big 8,000 point game. Yeah. That would be fun. And some of the other stuff is, like, Dark Eldar would be cool, but it's just too much stuff to paint for me. Because you always have to mitigate, like, your painting skill as well. You're like, I guess if I got infinite money, someone's painting it for me. In which case, a billion grots. 1 billion grots. In fact, actually, no. It's infinite money. Every army in 40k, but they've replaced the human or the Eldar or whatever with a grot riding it. Every example you can think of, there's a grot instead of the marine grots. All of it. That's what I want. Infinite grots. Does that answer your question?
Not really, but yeah, it's an answer.
Good. Okay. All right.
Cool. Glad we had this talk. Cool. So I think that's wrapping it up. Is there anything else we want to chat about? Plug Rob? Not
No.
to shout out to Gozzy.
No shout outs. I do want to. I would just like to shout out everyone who's joined me on this journey for the stream streak. I didn't know what it would be when I started 150 days ago, and I still don't know what it's going to be in 150 days. Obviously, it started out as a way to help people through lockdown who are having trouble, just like feeling lonely or just they were bored or whatever it might be. And there's been a great community that's already we had on the Honest Wargamer who's kind of like joined in on the day shows, which has been really fun. Like podcast guys, I know you just listen to the podcast and sometimes you don't get a level of interaction. I want to say thank you to you. And so it's been fun. It's been really, really fun. And I've enjoyed it as a way of like processing stuff and having great guests on. I want to thank you every single guest that's been on. They've all been wicked. I've really enjoyed that. So that's been fun as well. So it's been an interesting journey. And at this stage, it's kind of hard to stop doing it because it's like, well, what number are we going to get to? Because 150 seems quite fun. Also, it's a nice way to track lockdown, in the UK at least, because we started on like pretty much the right day. So it's been a really
it's a nice way to have content to listen to as well. For me personally, in a selfish way, it's like there's actually a daily thing to tune into, not just having to wait for Mondays or Thursdays. So to me, it's a positive.
I would say that sometimes I do get a little bit low on like suggestions for people to interview and talk about. So if there are any good suggestions, like people in your local community, someone reached out recently to ask me to interview a lady who interviews other ladies on like Lady Hammer. She does like a thing. So I've asked her to do that. But like I have to do it 7 days a week. So a big shout out to anyone who's got any suggestions, because we'd love to hear about it. Like suggestions for shows and people to come on and talk to me would be fun in the future, because we've had some great guests. Okay, all right. 40k today, eat your heart out. He's a nice guy. Yeah. Okay, good. John, thanks for interviewing me. I appreciate it.
That's all right. It was a nice challenge, even with the internet problems. But I've had fun. I'm probably going to go get a hammer to my router now.
Oh, you're a bit stressed by it.
I wanted it to be perfect.
It was fine.
Like.
It was fine. This is the best way to do show 150. Still dealing with tech issues 150 days later. And long may it never change. Thank you, everyone in the Twitch chat. You guys are great. Wonderful to talk to you as always. Patreon guys, couldn't do it without you. That was the other thing that happened during lockdown. Obviously lost my job, right? Like I lost being a DJ. We talked about, right? Yeah. It was half of my income, which is pretty phenomenal. But thank you to everyone who's joined the Patreon, even if it was for a limited amount of time or you only supported me for like a month or whatever it was. Like that has made it so that I can keep doing this, and that it's been able to grow. So thank you, like from the bottom of my heart. All right, okay, let's go. John, love you. Bye, John.
Bye.